Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roast.
And I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
Welcome to our preview for Severance Season 2, Episode 10. This is the finale, and to make things even more desperate and ominous, this finale is titled Cold Harbor.
Yeah, I mean, the big question going into this finale and what we're going to be talking about in this preview is Mark actually going to finish the Cold Harbor file? And I mean, this show is dark to begin with. I mean,
Yes.
Mark is literally working to kill his wife. It is so dark, this premise. But
Yeah.
is there hope in this show? Is there a way for our innies and our outies to be fighting back against what's happening?
There's so much to get into and theorize about. We've seen the synopsis. We'll go through that. We'll share some of our own opinions. Before we do anything too deep on that, though, a little bit of a programming note here because there is some confusion because Apple TV Plus, maybe they've updated it at the time of this recording, but originally they were sort of saying, okay, this episode's around 45 minutes, give or take. Ben Stiller has come out and said that this is a 76-minute finale. So for all of you wanting more Severance, just his reaction is basically saying it all without actually saying a word here.
Listen, we all waited like 3 years for this season to come. Just the longest finale you can give us without it feeling like filler. Let's go.
We need answers. So before we talk further, be sure to hit that subscribe button because we have so much more coverage coming all about Severance. Yeah, we have the review of the finale next week. We've got more theory discussions as well. And in addition to everything Severance, we are also in the midst of covering The White Lotus on HBO. Down the road, by the way, The Last of Us is coming. We're going to be discussing that. And also Yellow Jackets, which is at Showtime with Paramount Plus or whatever it is they're calling it now.
Also, Handmaid's Tale is going to be coming up pretty soon. We're going to be back covering that. Also is another show that's been off the air for years. So we're pretty excited for that to come back. And we're almost at 70,000 subscribers. So thank you so much to everybody who hits that subscribe button and helps us get to that goal. We've been doing this a really long time, and it's such a huge milestone that we're really excited to reach. You can also follow us over on our Patreon. We'll have a link for you below in the description. We're covering over there exclusively The Pit, which is airing on Max. And then we are also going to be covering Bosch Legacy. It's in its final season, and we're going to be covering those episodes over there as well. It's the only place that you can get those weekly reviews, and it helps support us here at the channel. So thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. We really appreciate that.
Okay, let's talk about Cobell for just a second here, because in the last review we did, we talked about sort of like what is her motivation. And getting into this preview, it sort of feels like she might become an unlikely ally, but I'm kind of curious of how much of an ally she's really going to be, because while she did tell Mark that if the Cold Harbor file is, completed, that Gemma's, already dead, she never was really that clear about the fact that it is Mark completing that file that makes her dead. And he may be able to put all that together himself, but he's kind of in a weird mental state right now because he is in the middle of reintegration. Things are really weird and cloudy in his mind. He's half outie, half innie, all over the place. So he may not have been able to really make that connection. Cobell has not been completely honest with him.
Yeah, that's the whole thing that's so tricky about this quote-unquote alliance is it might be one of these ultimate Venn diagrams where you have sort of Mark's interest over here, Cobell's interest over here, and there might be a little bit of an intersection in the middle, and Cobell might be able to use that to her advantage because she might be able to say to Mark, okay, I have a way to save you. I have a way to help you, and it might not help him when it comes to Gemma, but it might help him when it comes to his future. I mean, the synopsis describes what Cobell and, I guess I should say what Mark and his shaky alliance are doing as an all or nothing play. And to me, on paper, and this is a big on paper, what this means is like, okay, maybe Mark's able to do everything, get everything he wants, or Mark is just going to die, Jim is going to die, and everybody's going to be miserable. I just don't think it's that simple.
I think that this Gemma storyline is going to be wrapped up. I think it needs to be wrapped up at this point, whether she's alive and back out in the outie world, or she's been reprogrammed from Gemma to, Miss Casey to now the next person and shipped off somewhere else. And she's basically, Gemma is dead or gone, and now she's next person somewhere else, and Mark is never going to be able to be with her ever again. This is a really, like I said, a really dark show. So is he going to end up with this happy ending at the end of season 2 where she's rescued and they're together? Then it's like, okay, well then going into season 3, what is he doing?
I think it's a situation here where the show's going to take a really big swing. Like they took a huge swing in the season 1 finale. And that's why I loved that episode so much. I never saw the Helena reveal coming, and I don't know if they're going to be able to pull off a reveal of that magnitude all over again.
Yeah.
But what they can do is establish a new sort of equilibrium, if you will, for the show, whether it be, okay, Gemma is gone or quote unquote gone and she's somewhere else. So Mark may think that whatever hope he had is now gone, or it's a situation where maybe Gemma does get out and then something happens to Mark, and maybe we have a little bit of a role reversal there where she has to help him. But the risk in doing that, of course, is that it just kind of feels like you're doing the same thing and you're not going to be able to give Adam Scott that much to do. Like the part of it that I sort of agree with what you're saying is this, that the idea of Gemma getting out and being okay within this finale, it doesn't feel like Mark would have any real driving force anymore. And I mean, let's be honest here. The show's going at least 3 seasons. I feel like in my heart of hearts, it's probably going to be a 4-season show. They have a lot more story to tell.
Yeah, and one of the big stories at this point is Dylan. Was he able to actually just sign some forms and they're like, oh, okay, have a nice life, we're good now, bye-bye, and that's all going to be fine? I don't think so. I mean, we saw in this last episode where it looked like he got on the elevator and got off on the testing floor. So is he going to end up being the new Gemma, where the 3 end up getting back together if Irving is still alive, that they end up having to bring him back because Irving and Dylan are connected in a way that not very many other people are. They sever Gretchen, bring her in as well to then reprogram or kill off Dylan. And maybe that's going to be the motivation, because this group really cares about each other. One of the parts of this finale synopsis is that the team is going to make a really dangerous last stand, right? Yeah. So this might be a last stand to help out Gemma, but maybe this last stand is then going to turn into well, now we have to help Dylan or else.
The biggest question I have is just, who's the team anymore? Because Mark seemingly, okay, let's just say that Cobell, for whatever reason, convinces any Mark at the cabin, okay, we need you to go back in, finish Cold Harbor, and that this is going to be the way that I can actually help to get you out here, because we need to do something that gives Lumen a false sense of security, sort of establish a Trojan horse scenario, if you will, and that can bring everybody back together. But the problem is, I'm sure you guys have all seen this meme over the years of just like the person standing in an empty room, just sort of looking around. Like, that may be Mark at this point. Like, we'll get more into Irving in a moment here, but if Dylan is off on the testing room floor and they haven't let him leave and they're doing something there, like, who knows what's happening with Helly now after that Jamie Egan thing at the end of episode 9.
Okay, here's my tinfoil hat theory for this preview. Gemma's going to die.
Oh.
I think she needs to die so that Mark doesn't have that happy wrapped up ending. There is no reason for him at that point, if she's alive, for him to risk himself to come back and help Dylan. They weren't as close as, say, an Irving or something like that. If this was Helly, then maybe, but probably not, because Outie Mark will have everything he wants. He has no reason to go back there at all anymore. I think it needs to be my favorite thing ever, revenge. I think that it's got to be that Gemma's going to go. He's going to end up doing it. He's not going to be able to live with the fact that he's done that. And it's going to be good old fashioned revenge where he will come back in and be like, yeah, I'm a team player so that we can see everybody back together again. But really, it's about dismantling the company from the inside. And in that, they'll learn Dylan's fate.
I would be cool with that just because I really want to see angry Adam Scott, because I know he's done a lot of things over the course of his career, but the two things I remember him the most for are obviously Mark here, but then also Ben Wyatt from Parks and Recreation, and almost every character he is, I just want to give him a hug. I want him to just be really, really upset and intent on something. Now, okay, I'm going to have my tinfoil hat prediction here for the finale. It's also not going to make a lot of people happy, so I will say that right from the get-go.
Yeah.
Once again, dark show, but...
it's a dark show. I mean, I know we're on here being like, oh, it's all doom and gloom, but this is Severance. Lumen is doom and gloom.
I think we're leaning in a direction of something we've kind of been talking about off and on for a big chunk of the season, where Lumen to the public is presenting itself as this unified front, like this company that's really all together, and I think they're selling themselves as for the future of humanity. They've clearly got a lot of branches in healthcare. They've got a lot of branches in other things too, but they really want to present them in this way. But we already know that there are some fractures within. We saw Milchick telling off Drummond to incredible effect on this past episode. We have seen Helena do a couple of things that very much make it clear that she's not full on in lockstep with all of the other higher ups. Like, she may be capable of really terrible things, but I think philosophically her mind is kind of going in a slightly different direction, and maybe there's even an awareness of that on the part of Jamie Egan. Now, where we're going with all of this is that Cobell is very much about Kier. Like, that's been super established. Like, I think she's about herself, but I think she's also really about Kier. I envision the finale being in some sort of way her finding a way to get some power back at Lumen, her finding a way to basically take down both Helena and maybe Milchick at the same time. And yeah, Mark may have more allies moving forward, but they're people who may not be able to help him anymore. Like, I'm really wondering about this situation of, could Helena be permanently severed, or could Helena be kicked out of Lumen altogether? Because if the other higher ups think, oh, we don't have any use for you anymore, it's not going to matter that she's an Egan. It's like they care about the company, about Kier, more than anything else.
Yeah, I think that the fact that we saw Jamie Egan down there being like, you tricked me.
Yeah.
I think, Helena in huge trouble at this point. I just think that Cobell, that whole episode that I know had everybody really divided.
Oh, yeah.
Her getting those plans of like, this was all my brainchild. I'm the person who got all of it together.
Yeah.
It feels very much like she's on a mission to either take down the company or get credit for what she's done and possibly replace Helena in her job. Oh, let's end you, Cobell. You can't come back. Everything that's happened, we'll give you this BS job of whatever, pretend title we're making up for you. And Cobell was like, no. But I think we might see a switch here where Jamie has come in and been like, you tricked me. I can't trust you anymore. We got to pull you is probably what's going to happen. And if Cobell is now proving herself, that she may actually end up moving up the ranks and being like the biggest bad, because she is the person who came up with this. And I know that it's the situation where it's like Jamie ended up being the person that took the credit for it. But at the same time, if he really thinks that she can come in and help in that higher level, he'll do that. I mean, he had her on the severed floor managing everything.
Yes.
So for him to be like, okay, we're going to put you back on the severed floor. Maybe we'll put you up in a bit of a higher position as well to get this finished. All they care about is finishing Cole Harbour.
Yeah, it's all for the benefit of Kier, their end goals. I think even that's more important than nepotism at this point, and I think that's why there's a big problem for Helena. So a couple more thoughts I have here going into the finale. One of them is Milchick, and I think the downfall of Milchick is just that, as you said in the past review, he told Drummond to eat a bag of grass. Let's all be realistic for a moment here. how many times can you say that to a superior at your job where there is no consequence to it?
Yeah, I think unless Milchick is able to actually get Mark in there, or seemingly he's the person that gets him in there, this isn't gonna fly, and it's just not gonna fly for very long unless it's Milchick is like, yeah, I told him to eat a bag of grass, but I am still here getting things done. I'm getting Mark back in here, I'm getting him back to finish the file. I get it done. That's just the only way that's really, there's no consequences. However,
Mhm.
some stuff has happened with Milchick already, and there was no consequences for it, right? Like the biggest consequences he had was to change his language and to use some paper clips correctly.
I want to win for Milchick. Let's make that very clear.
Yes.
He might be my favorite character on the show at this point. So it's just like, come on, guys. Okay, finally, let's mention Irving here for a moment, because there
Yeah.
was a comment that we got in our review, and this is from Michael Runs a Lot. Great name. You know who does not run a lot? Matt. Matt does not run at all. But this was an
Same.
interesting suggestion here, though. This idea that, oh, maybe it's actually Bert who's going to end up dying as opposed to Irving, and that maybe Bert has done something sort of his own last gasp, a way to this last semblance of humanity. And I was thinking a little bit about that idea, and it's like, yeah, that's interesting. Like, I'm still the most worried about Irving for everything we said in the review, but there is an interesting idea that, okay, what if Bert had intended for Irving to get away?
Right.
But then at the same time, if you go down our Irving is a detective spy line of logic that we've established, if that's his job, is Irving really gonna walk away from it at this point? I just don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. If Bert has allowed Irving to just go off into the sunset, eventually everything he knows is going to come to the surface, and Bert's going to probably end up dead, and so will Irving. It'll just be Lumen's way of cleaning up these loose ends. They already had a PR disaster with the innies that
Yes.
got out. They're not going to just let Irving go and be out there. And if Bert did that and he's their driver, then Bert's not going to be working there anymore either.
Yeah, I think it's
Not
very
working.
it's understandable to worry about losing either Totoro or Christopher Walken. They're both icons. They can both do other things.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some real fun discussion in our review about that idea. John is still listed as 10 episodes on IMDb, and I just want to say,
Yeah.
don't trust IMDb. It's possible that he is, and I hope that he is. I said this in the review. I hope I take a huge L and that we've got Irving next season. We've got
Yeah.
Irving in the finale. I want to see more Irving. He is my favorite character on the show. However, IMDb with episode like listings and stuff like that,
Yeah.
networks and streaming services, they will fudge the numbers on those if they want to hide like character deaths or people leaving the show or stuff like that, so that you can't go on there, like just happened on another show where I was like, oh, what is this character's name? Cool, they're on 2 episodes, that means that they're no longer on the show anymore. But most networks don't do that. They'll just list them for all 10 episodes or all 8 episodes, and that way you just don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty common practice, especially for series regulars at this point. So
Right.
take all of that with a grain of salt. I just think the one thing we can say is that this finale is going to pay off. It's probably not going to give you all the answers, so don't set the bar that high. But I think it's going to give you some answers. It will probably give you some new questions. It better be awesome, because we have been waiting for basically 3 years for this season. But
Yeah.
I think season 2 has been very much worth the wait. It's been really outstanding from start to finish. Not every episode has been 10 out of 10, but there's been a lot of 10 out of 10s in here.
Absolutely. We must love all episodes equally, the
Oh.
Lumen way.
Okay,
Praise Kier.
Okay, 1, no. 2, Milchick. If that says that in your guidebook about the episode, set it on fire. We do not care, but okay. What do you guys think is coming on the Severance Season 2 finale? Give us your thoughts, your theories. How do you think we're moving into a Season 3, which feels like it's 100% going to happen? But
For sure.
yeah, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Help us get to 70,000. We really, really appreciate that. And support us further by joining our Patreon. That link is in the description. Like Jess said earlier, we're covering right now The Pit exclusively in video form there. We have Bosch Legacy coming up. Thank you so much. We'll see you here next time.